Welcome to You Belong in the Room, a podcast from Hardship. This show explores the decisions that shape women's lives, from money and career to health, relationships, and leadership. Through thoughtful conversations with experts and leaders, we're unpacking the systems that shape the decisions, and we're giving women the insight and language to participate more fully in those conversations and to be confident in the rooms where life decisions are being made. This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. It is not intended as a substitute for financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult a qualified professional for your specific circumstances. I am so excited to talk today to Karen Flam, who is the director of the foundation at the Donald Berman Maimonides Geriatric Center. Karen has spent over 2 decades working closely with families navigating aging, caregiving, and long-term care decisions. She was featured as a panelist in last year's Hardship Symposium, and the reviews were full of raving and awe. Karen, you are comfortable and knowledgeable when it comes to the financial and emotional connections that weave through our lives, and specifically as it applies to aging and our futures, which are filled with unknown. So I would love to start off, first of all, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And could you just tell us a bit about you, about your life, and kind of what brings you to this conversation?
Sure. Well, life brings me to the conversation. Yes. There's no other way to say it than that. Yeah. And my life is no more, special or unique than anyone else's, but it is unique to me in that I became a widow at a very young age, totally unprepared for the future at all. And I had 3 young children, and I found myself in a world where I had to really establish myself and put myself together because my family was depending on me. Mm-hmm. And luckily I had an education, a good education. I had some street smarts and an incredible optimism that no matter how challenging my life had been, that there was going to be a future for me. Mm. And I felt very strongly that I needed to show my 3 daughters that women can take their place no matter their past or what's happened to them. You know, you pick yourself off the ground and you go out there and you seize the future. And it took me a while. It didn't happen overnight, but I was able, luckily, to keep my focus and get exactly where I wanted to be. I certainly feel that way. But the truth is, I'm 72 years old. I will be, oh my God, I'm 71 years old. I'm going to be 72 years old in a few months. And I'm really still waking up on Monday morning and saying, I can't wait to get to work.
That's the best.
And as long as that's happening, and I can still be incredibly effective and innovative, because innovation is an incredibly important part of life these days, I want to just keep doing this. Absolutely. I love it.
It's phenomenal. Curious if we could start by addressing the role that money plays in our ability to live our best life and age well.
Yeah. It's all about money. Sorry. People say, oh, it's all about family. It's all about your health. It's all about everything. All those things that we say to people, But the truth is, it's really all about money. Yeah. And money starts here and here. So you have to figure out what you want here, and then you have to use this to get what you want in here. Mm. And you have to use both effectively. And it's really important. And I sort of had these goals in my head. Oh, when I earn, this much money, I'll really have made it. Or when I can do this many vacations, I can do it. Or when I hit this elite status, with an airline or a hotel, I've made it. Or when I can give my children whatever they want, I've made it. The first time I took my entire family on a vacation and I paid for the vacation rental, I was over the moon. I never in my wildest dreams did I think that I would be able to do that, or to take my kids to Europe, or to do any of those things. So you take it in little steps, and I think there's something great about having goals that are a little bit unreasonable, so that you have to stretch every day to get to your goal. But I'm sorry, I don't mean to be, it's all about money.
Yeah. And how would you, because a lot of people don't feel the power of money. It's almost like a yucky, scary, intimidating.
I agree, but I think we should define the difference between people and women, because where women are concerned, it's a whole other ballgame. How many times do we hear stories about, now I talk about older people, heck, I guess I am older, but, older people saying, the husband died and she never even knew how to balance a checkbook. Yeah. Are you kidding me? That is ridiculous that you don't know how to balance a checkbook. Don't be stupid. Like, women have to have their own bank accounts separate from their partner. They have to have financial goals. They have to reach those goals. Things have to be in their name. And enough of this bullshit. It's 2026. Women have to take power over their lives and not expect somebody else. Yes, it's their partner, but ultimately the responsibility is with women.
It's interesting because when we think historically, it actually hasn't been that long.
No.
That we can.
Agreed.
Have our own bank accounts, our own credit cards.
Long.
It's not that long. But now that we can, I meet a lot of women who are exactly in that boat. They really don't know a lot. And the interesting thing to me is it's not that hard. It's just we're still so socialized to somewhat feel like it's not in our column. It's not our role because we have so many roles, I think. But to your point, it's all about power.
Money is power.
Yeah.
Money's freedom.
Yeah. Yeah. Should we go right to your tattoo?
Should we? I was wondering how long that was going to take. So, when I turned 70, I decided to get a tattoo. And I was in San Francisco in the Tenderloin district, and I thought, why not go all out? And I went to this place. It was called Black Heart Tattoos. If I told you what the people looked like inside. But anyhow, in I go, and I wanted a tattoo. And I was with some friends. And I decided that I wanted a heart. I love hearts. And I wanted a heart on my pointer finger of my left hand. Your left hand is the closest to your heart. And the pointer finger to remind myself, not that I need reminding, but that we should always lead with kindness, and I did it. This is my second heart tattoo, because the first day, and I learned something so valuable that day, I was afraid to make it too big. So I made it like a quarter of the size of this one. You can see the imprint of my first tattoo there. So I made it, and I knew instantly that it was too small. And it's really the story of a life, right?
Yeah.
Women are so afraid to take a leap. Holy shit, men leap all the time. They don't even think about it, okay? They leap, and the consequences are the consequences. Women, we think it through. We do our research. We figure it out. We do all this stuff. But here I was with this tattoo. So what an idiot, okay? I get this tiny, you can see it here, it's a tiny. Went back to another tattoo parlor after that, and I said to the guy at the Mike, I still remember. His name was Mike, and I told him my story, and he laughed, and he said, I can fix it, no problem. And he did. So now I have this beautiful big red heart. And then it occurred to me that I wanted a second tattoo. Why did I pick my hands? Well, because I wanted to see them. You know, it's not for everybody else. These tattoos are for me. So the second tattoo I decided to do was freedom. Because for me, freedom is everything in life. When I became a widow, I was a prisoner of my past, a prisoner of my financial situation, a prisoner of exhaustion and trying to think of what I wanted my future to be. And I mapped it out in my head. It took me almost 10 years to figure out what my path was going to be. I did what I needed to do to survive and provide for my children, but it took me a long time. And freedom was what it was all about.
Yeah.
And by freedom, I mean, actually, if I tell the truth, it's financial freedom. To be able to do whatever I want to do.
Yeah.
I was scared for so long. When you're not free, and especially when you're not financial free, you spend a lot of time being scared.
Yeah.
Scared of everything. Yes. Scared of going to the grocery store. Scared of doing anything. But once you have freedom, that brings you immense stores of strength. It's an incredible journey to take, and women have to do it. So.
And I think I love the point that financial freedom isn't about what you can go get. It's how you get to live.
It's life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't talk about what you can get. I talked about very simple things that you want to do.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because stuff isn't really what makes you happy.
No.
It's creating goals and achieving the goals. That's where the true joy lies. And joys are, for me now, it's a lot of things, but it's mostly about experiences.
Yeah. And I think in your work, you get the opportunity to kind of use this knowledge and experience and insight where it applies to money and kind of infuse that into impact and help people navigate.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's the aging part and there's also the kind of making the world better part. And I think you work very intimately with both. So if we just try to touch some of this insight, and I guess you get to see the level of discomfort that exists as well in these areas. How do you help?
Well, my job is as a director of a foundation. So my goal is to raise money to better the lives of the people who live in the long-term care centers that I serve. And by the time people come to a long-term care center, they don't have freedom anymore.
Right.
They don't have autonomy anymore.
Right.
They have often multiple illnesses, and they can't do anything for themselves anymore. And that's a real eye-opener to somebody like me who spent my whole life striving for freedom, and then to get to a point in your life where you're completely vulnerable again.
Yeah.
And so I deal with the families of the people who are going to become residents and how they're grappling with the aging process of their parents and their loved ones. But I also get to deal with donors. And I talk about the magic that it is to be a donor. So philanthropy is my passion, but it also makes me incredibly happy. People say, oh my God, you ask people for money every single day? Yes, I love it, because there's a magic that happens when somebody asks for money and receives the money. Not in a transactional way, but in a giving way.
Yeah.
A way of using the money to do good and not for yourself. You know, the sage Maimonides says that the highest form of philanthropy, the highest form of good, is to give anonymously and receive anonymously. How incredible is that, right? That's the highest level. I also want people to understand that it doesn't take a lot of money to make a difference. I met someone a long time ago who talked to me about how she had a giving purse, and in it she had loonies and toonies and $5 bills and $10 bills. And she said that when she saw someone on the street, instead of looking away, she would open her little giving purse and give somebody something. And she liked to sometimes just feel that little giving purse in her bag, to know that it was there, to know that she could do that.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
It wasn't a lot.
Yeah.
You don't have to give away millions to be a philanthropist. I try to tell people, don't look away. Say hello. You don't want to give them money. Just acknowledge, show that person that they're seen. Of course, I work on a much different level now, but it starts at a very simple level.
100%. And I think that once you know the feeling, the pleasure of giving, it becomes very quickly an integral part of living a meaningful, joyful
I hope so.
life. I think so.
I hope so.
And that's so closely tied to financial freedom and to what you're talking about in terms of having the power to make those decisions. So we know that that's an area that we wish for women to be more present in and to have more agency with respect to. And then there's the flip side when we go to caretaking.
Okay.
Right? Because
although I love the word agency, I think we need to talk about that a lot more with women.
yes,
But anyhow,
100%. And I think this all ties together. So when we talk about caretaking, it's almost the flip side. Like this is something where we just find ourselves.
We're socialized for it from the day we're born.
Yeah.
Sadly.
It's a huge deal.
I have 3 daughters, so I'm great.
Yeah.
They're going to take care of me. But, my mother had 4 sons and a daughter. Guess who took care of her?
Yeah.
Caregiving is a complicated business.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily get to choose to be a caregiver.
Yeah.
When people come to talk to me, we often have very private conversations. And the ones that are the most challenging are when people say to me, my father and I really never got along. And now he's got dementia, and I don't get any satisfaction out of this relationship because I'm never going to get what I need from my father. So I try to tell people, the caregiving, sometimes they're good days, but most days aren't that great. But you still have to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You still do.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's hard emotions.
So it's challenging afterwards for family members who can't resolve that caregiving role. They say that the mourning process is much harder for people who can't resolve those issues they have around caregiving. It's complicated.
Yeah. Yeah. And the toll, I think, that it takes emotionally, financially.
Wow.
Yeah. So are there better ways to prepare?
Oh, my goodness. Well, I guess the way to prepare is to have difficult conversations earlier in the process. The conversations are complicated, too, but they have to be had. Because if you wait to have the conversations, it's really too late.
Yeah.
And as people, we should be more active in our wishes and expressing them to our family members before we need to. And I talk all the time about this with my children who say, "Oh, I don't want to talk about this." Hello, we really have to talk about it.
Yeah.
And yeah. And every decision we make has a financial implication. If you tell your
Say
children,
that again.
every decision we make has a financial implication.
Oh, Karen.
Particularly about end-of-life issues. Very hard conversations to have. And I just think that if parents say to their children, oh, I want to die at home. Okay. Do you understand the financial implications of that? Do you understand the emotional complications of that? Do you understand the challenges that your children are going to have after you pass away? It's massive. It's really hard.
Yeah. And what happens when, like, do you have experiences where you meet families and the patient is running out of money?
Every day. Look, we have universal health care.
Yeah.
It's good and bad in many, many ways. And but I must say that nobody will be uncared for. So if you need to have long-term care and you qualify for long-term care placement in a public place like where I am, which is public, you will not be refused based on your ability to pay. If you can't afford that monthly fee, then your family can apply to have the fee reduced, and then the institution will take your pension, whatever the value of your pension is. So there you go. You've got a place to live.
I see. Yes.
That's what universal health care provides. And that's what we do. And at the foundation, we provide the extras, the stuff that the government doesn't pay for.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's right now, I am thinking of someone we're paying for their, you know, their monthly cable so that they can have Netflix in their room, or we're paying for them to go have a haircut or you know, all of those kinds of things. So that's the kinds of small things that the foundation can do to better people's lives who can't afford.
Wow.
Nobody goes without.
And how would you describe, like, for those who are less well-versed in caretaking, like, what does it look like?
Sure. Well, it can look like a whole bunch of stuff. I always say the first one is like maybe a daily phone call to your parents. It's 2 minutes out of your day, but it's an incredibly important 2 minutes in your aging parents' day.
Yeah.
And you can set it in you can set yourself a timer in your phone, and you also have to, you know, understand that the phone call's not about you, it's about them. So you're not going to get something for you out of it. Your goal is to get something for them. So that changes the framework of the conversation.
Yeah.
So I say start with a phone call. And the other thing, which is a little more time consuming, is a visit.
Yeah.
Either let's have lunch, or I'll come over, or I'll bring some of your favorite groceries, or those kinds of things. And going to someone's home is very important, because you're going to notice the subtleties of change. Is the house a little messier? Does the person look a little less kempt? Are their clothes clean? Is the kitchen tidy? Well, listen, if your mother sucked at cleaning the kitchen, don't be upset if the kitchen's not tidy. But if your parent was someone who really was very, who thought very highly of a clean house and a clean kitchen, and it suddenly looks a little bit, those are clues that something's going on, and you need to watch more closely. I'm starting very low, and I'm moving you up the scale, right? And then you get to the point where you start to visit, and you see that the fridge is empty. If the fridge is empty, why is the fridge empty? People's appetites change. There's no question. They eat differently as they age. But, you know, or the temperature's too hot, or the temperature's too cold. Little subtle things in the house that you might not have noticed before. If you suspect that something's going on with their health, then it's up to you to actively start to talk about those things. And that might be the time to get something in writing, a mandate of sorts to help with their financial affairs or help with their medical decisions. You need to have those conversations hopefully when you're still at the phone call stage. But if you're at the visiting the house and seeing there's differences, you got to do it very quickly.
Yeah.
And do it properly.
How early?
Fast. Early.
Should someone ask their parents, for example, to know the situation of their finances? And I guess it depends on how hard that conversation is.
It's going to be hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's when you start to see things slipping.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a pivotal point that you have to do it before things get more acute.
Yeah.
And you're the person's child. Trust me, you know when it's time. You don't want to do it, but you know when it's time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you knew as a child when it was time to move out. It's the same feeling you're going to get.
Yeah.
And it's usually the daughter.
Yeah. I imagine you've seen situations where people have waited too long.
Of course. Then there's nothing to be done. And that's how things go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And also, if you know something about your parent, you better share it with your siblings.
Right.
And the siblings have to be on the same page. And these things often go sideways when there's still another spouse. And the other spouse doesn't agree with what the siblings are saying. It's very complicated stuff, and it doesn't get easier.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to stick with it. Well, actually, there's two options. You can walk right away from it and let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah.
And by the way, there are all kinds of things in place legally to take care of these kinds of things that if you decide to walk away. But if you decide to step in, you can't just step in one day. You have to commit yourself to being that caregiver for the duration.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little more complicated when there's a spouse in long-term care and another spouse in an apartment. That's double the cost, right?
Yeah.
The spouse is still paying for his or her apartment and all the costs involved with that. Plus, they're paying for long-term care and any extras that are needed there. So that's double the money, and it becomes a lot more challenging. You know, the law says that a person is responsible for their own care financially, that children are not compelled to pay for their parents. It's very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Obviously, children pay for their parents.
Yeah. And the guilt and the resentment and there's just countless.
It's endless.
Yeah.
You can seek help from an accountant, a lawyer. There are lawyers who specialize in all of these things that do very good work. And I urge people to speak to them early.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dementia can happen as early as, I don't even want to tell you how early it can happen, but it can happen very early.
Yeah.
And in families where there's a history of dementia, there's even more of an urgency to take action early.
Yeah. And so a protection mandate.
Hello.
I mean, everyone needs a protection mandate.
Yeah, eventually.
Yeah. And a will.
A will and a financial mandate.
And a financial mandate.
Absolutely. All those things have to be discussed. When people check into our long-term care center, we ask them what their end-of-life wishes are. Yeah. Sometimes families are completely unprepared to answer those questions. Can you imagine? You're bringing your parent to a long-term care center, which is going to be their final home, and when we ask about end-of-life wishes, they're shocked.
Well, I think your point about having hard conversations, I mean, do you have to advise people on how to have those sometimes, or?
Sure, people need help.
Yeah.
That's why you're doing this podcast.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that the role that money plays, to tie it back to the financial freedom, is a lot of the stress that comes with some of this caretaking and end of life. Like, there is a role for money to play in easing.
Oh my goodness, I have a phenomenal financial advisor, how exciting that I need a financial advisor. Oh my God, in my whole life, I never thought that would happen to me. But I happen to have a spectacular financial
Everyone
advisor.
needs a financial advisor.
Everybody needs a financial advisor. And we went through this incredible exercise that I was so against doing, where I had to fill out like 26 pages of questions about like how many times I wanted to go to a restaurant when I was 85 years old, or, all these crazy things.
That sounds like a comprehensive financial
plan. It was very
plan.
comprehensive. I loved it. So, and at the end of it, we came up with this sort of notion of, hard as this seems, how much money I would need to live to 90. He picked the age of 91. I want you to know my grandfather was like 98 and my dad was 99. I'm beginning to think this whole 91 thing is a little bit of a fallacy. But anyhow, like really the notion that how much money do you need? And I just love having my bank app on my phone. Like I'm always looking, okay, so I need this much more or that much more. But it's so important to make it concrete.
Yeah.
So that it isn't this sort of nebulous idea of how much money do I need to live? And we're going to live a heck of a lot longer. We have 35 people at Maimonides who are over the age of 100.
Wow.
So, like it's going to be a long life.
Yeah.
So working out how much you need on a monthly basis, on a yearly basis, working out pensions and RRSPs and RIFs and all of it, TS.
Yeah.
Every single thing that we talk about now, and it drips off of our tongue, that women never talked about 20 years ago even, 10 years ago even.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any excuse today for women not to be financially literate. How do I speak to my mother about what her monthly income is or what she's spending her money on or whatever? ChatGPT will give you 5 pages of advice of how to speak to your mother or father about these kinds of things.
Yes.
And use it. Use it. It's only going to get better.
Yeah. What are some of the things that people might not expect that they would have to spend money on later in life? Because we always, there's it's easy to think, well, later on I won't need as much, but that's not necessarily true.
Absolutely not true.
Right.
What if you need a caregiver in your house that has to come in and help you? If you make that decision to live at home as long as you possibly can, then you're going to have to put money aside for a caregiver. And caregivers are very expensive, and it's after-tax dollars. Yes. So,
Yes. So in the examples where you've seen people quite prepared and, maybe they do have financial freedom, what are the benefits? Like, what's the best case scenario? Tell us a story of something that's just aging caretaking has gone so well.
Well, obviously, to have enough money to be able to live comfortably until you're 100 years old is phenomenal, And then, of course, crazy things happen. A terrible diagnosis that you can't survive, and other things. But listen, there's always something. It's life.
Yeah. Yes. And I think to your point, convenience and just the lack of stress around these things that will inevitably happen. We just don't know what they are.
That's why the exercise that I hated so much that my financial advisor had me do was so important. I had an incredible clarity afterwards. I had a peace of mind that I didn't have before.
And it forces you,
oh my God,
to that other point, to grapple, right?
It was awful.
Yeah.
Awful.
Yeah. So it's almost like you're having hard conversations with yourself.
You have to.
Yes.
By the way, it starts with you.
Yeah.
And particularly with women. Women's lives change dramatically.
Yeah.
54% of the population gets divorced. There's a change in all the balances, emotional, financial, all those balances change with divorce. And becoming a widow, becoming divorced. There's so many things that happen in a woman's life. And if they don't understand what their financial freedom is, it's it's going to be a major crisis.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I mean, part of the entire goal of Powership is to help equip women and to encourage women to get this financial clarity. Like, you're never going to have full clarity, but to feel confident being in the room, asking the questions before the crisis.
So I want to say, does something bad have to happen to you before you take control of your life? That's really the question I want to ask women. Because so often, that's the reality of it.
Yeah. And what's fascinating, because I think of the word control. Mm-hmm. And probably many women think that they are trying to have control of their lives. Mm-hmm. But this key piece around money, I think, is the missing link that I always want to urge women to better understand, is that in order to have control, you can't not know where you are financially.
Hello.
Right.
And whose money is it?
Should we say that again?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whose money is it?
Yeah.
Women make all kinds of bargains about money.
Yes. And is that because we think financial freedom on our own account is harder to achieve than, is it? It's historical, it's social, I think there's lots and lots of reasons.
What did our mothers do?
Yeah.
What did our grandmothers do?
Yeah.
You know, we repeat.
Yeah.
It's hard to break the mold.
Yeah. And the sacrifices that we're making by those bargains. God. Yeah. I think it's very interesting to be on the other side, because it's probably very difficult to understand what you're giving up when you haven't had it.
Right. We're talking about a certain level, you and I, right now, today, of freedom. Mm-hmm. I'm not being naive. I'm not being elitist. I'm just saying that you and I today are talking about freedom is very different. I mean, freedom is, for an example, your tooth cracks, you lose a tooth.
Yes. That's a great example.
Okay? It's so simple.
Yes.
A cracked tooth or a sore tooth or something like that. Well, here it is. It's the middle of the month of August. Your tooth cracks. Okay? You have 3 kids. You're divorced. You're on a very fixed income. And your kids need new school clothes and new school shoes and new school supplies and everything else. What are you going to do? Fix your tooth, or are you going to buy the stuff that your children need?
Yeah.
And I look at people. It's so interesting. I look at people. You learn a lot by people's smiles. Teeth are a tremendous indicator. If you look at people on the street and they smile at you, and I look at our staff who work so hard to provide for their children, and inevitably they'll give you a nice big smile, and right back there you're going to see what decisions they've made.
Exactly. And you're reminding me of the difference between being rich and being wealthy, and the sacrifices that go into building wealth and financial freedom. And
it's incredibly relentless.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Women make all kinds of bargains.
We sure do. And often we're carrying so much, I think, which is why sometimes having to also deal with the financial side of our lives feels like a lot, when I hope what we glean from this conversation is that actually it's a key component. It's very important. Yeah.
And it's relentless too. Like, how many women do their own taxes? Or do they just give it to their father's accountant or their husband's accountant?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even just making your own money, even a small amount, I think, makes a huge difference.
Huge.
Yeah. Because we are involved in the financial system, women in general. I mean, everyone is involved in the financial system.
Of course. But there's a depth of involvement in everything.
Yeah.
You know?
We
should care as much about our financial health as we do about which class our children are getting into in school.
Yeah.
But our priorities sometimes are, very skewed.
Even the ability to prioritize ourselves.
Oh, that we could talk about for a whole other couple of hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
Women do not prioritize themselves.
No.
Very rarely.
Yeah.
They're at the bottom of the list.
Yeah. And I think that touches directly to caretaking because it's very hard to advocate for our own needs when we're not used to it. And caretaking sometimes becomes like this consuming reality.
I agree. Look, one of the things that women have to learn how to do is to make the right choices. And some women don't make any choices. They abdicate those decisions to other people in their lives. But I think women have to understand that they've got to make their own choices. And they need to take a stand to do that.
Mm-hmm. And so for anyone listening, if we could leave them with a few practical tips or takeaways that we know that people would flourish more if they addressed or did, what would be some ideas?
I think women have to learn to take control of their financial lives. And it's as simple as downloading their bank app on their phone so they can check their credit card balances and their account balances and to keep track of the due date when they should be paying their credit card bill. And that's a simple thing to do. But, keep track of your finances and understanding the most simple of things and not expecting somebody else to do it for you. I earn every penny that goes in my bank account, so I am extremely conscious of it. But it's very different. I mean, when people get married, they should set a standard for their financial independence in marriage that should be no different from the standards that they had before they were married. That's really important. And I'm 72. I don't know what 25-year-old women do when they decide to get married about their finances. But holy cow, no joint bank accounts. So sorry. Have your own bank account.
It's interesting because there's a lot of controversial advice out there, I think, or ideas around these.
Well, I am a person who grew up in the age of feminism, and I have different ideas maybe than what other people have. I'm a absolute diehard feminist.
Yeah.
I've made right and wrong decisions because of that. But yes, I think there are controversial things. I think some people have their own bank accounts and their husbands have, or their partners have their own bank accounts, or wives, or however it works. And then they have a separate bank account for household expenses and all that kind of stuff, So that's fine too, but at least there's got to be agency.
Exactly.
There has to be agency.
Exactly. But the transparency, I think the conversation is the point. The
Absolutely.
agency. Yeah.
The agency and the conversation, the need for that awareness.
Yes. Yes.
That awareness, I'm not sure that today some women still have that awareness.
Yeah, and I think, unfortunately, there are partnerships where I mean, there are definitely partnerships with a spouse would like the woman to have more awareness, I think, and she may not be interested for a host of reasons, and others where the spouse may not. So I think we have a whole...
Well, we didn't even talk about money and control.
Yes.
That's a whole other conversation.
Yes. And I think that in terms of dealing well with caretaking and aging, if you don't start from a place of awareness and conversations, it's very hard.
It's hard to catch up.
Exactly.
You know, there is a lead time for this agency.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to catch up when you're dealing with a crisis.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, really sad. And I see so much of it.
So do I.
And I try to be, look, I think I started this conversation by telling you that my, one of my strongest qualities is optimism. So I always look for the glass to be half full. But in matters of money, sadly, the glass is often half empty. If you don't deal with it and take care of it, it's not going away.
And how good is it, because I know you've experienced this, how good is it even when it's half empty when you first look?
It's fine. That's a motivating factor to give you your goals. I work with daily goals, weekly goals, monthly goals. I write them down. I have my book. I have ideas. I'm so focused about my agency and myself and understanding what I want. You know, it doesn't just happen.
And how do you get past the avoidance?
Oh my God, I'm the most avoidance person in my whole life. So I'll tell you a story of what happened to me. It happened a long time ago. I had been a widow for about 5 years and I had a credit card. And my fear of my credit card was that my credit card debt was going to get so big that, you know, I couldn't deal with it. So every once in a while when I walked by the bank, I would go to the bank machine and I would transfer a couple of $100s into my credit card account. So, but I was in full avoidance mode. So in the days when you still got bills in the mail, I wouldn't open my credit card bill. So how I resolved it is I just went to the bank and I put a couple of $100 in the bank, maybe once or twice a month. But I never, ever opened the bill because I was terrified of opening bills. So one day I went to the bank and I had to do something where I actually went to a teller. It was the bank right below where we're sitting today.
Wow.
On the street, right here. I remember the story when I walked in the door here this morning. So I went to the teller, and she said to me after we had done whatever it was I went there for, which I don't remember, she said to me, "Can I talk to you about something?" And I said, "Sure." She said, "Well, I'd like to talk to you about your credit card balance." My heart, I thought I was going to pee in my pants right there in front of everybody in the whole bank. "I'd like to talk to you about your credit card balance." I said, "Oh my God, I'm doing my best." She said, "Well, here's what I need to tell you. I've been working at this bank for 25 years. I've never seen this before." I said, "What?" She said, "You're using your credit card account like a bank account. You have a credit of $5,000 in your credit card account." And she was laughing at me. And she called over all the tellers to see my credit card balance.
Karen.
And I was like, you know, I have to tell you, I have a problem with opening mail. And I just never want to pay interest. And I just wanted to be sure that it was okay.
I love this story so much.
Well, you might have loved it. I got in my car and I was sobbing because it was the story of my life. I was so busy avoiding opening my bills that I didn't realize that I had a $5,000 credit in my credit card account.
Oh, that's such a good story. That's such a good story. It touches exactly.
It's about avoidance.
Yeah.
It's about avoidance. I had a crisis a few years ago about my issues of not opening my mail. First of all, the post office would regularly call me and say that my mailman refused to come. I had a crisis. The crisis involved freezing my bank account over something else. And so I got myself a goddess of an accountant who saved my life. And she sat me down. And the interesting part is we never met face to face. We did this all by email and Zoom and phone calls. And she said, look, the first thing is you have to open your mail. I said, I can't. I'm just blocked. She said, okay, give me all the mail that you have that hasn't been opened. I'm going to open it, and we're going to deal with this piece by piece. So I sent her, my assistant at work, I think we sent her, it's like that classic story where you show up with a shoebox, with the whole thing. I think we sent her 2 giant shopping bags full of mail.
Goodness.
She set me straight. And she said, I will set you straight. It will all work out, but you need to open your mail. So my kids, when they come to my house now, they constantly open the mailbox to make sure that it's empty.
Wow.
I open my mail now. But it took me 20 years to get over that avoidance.
Yeah.
You get in trouble in your life, and there are some things you just don't like to do. And I didn't like to open the mail.
Yeah. Well, the fear and anxiety.
Well, I get a lot less mail now that I deal with things, by the way. I hardly get any mail, so, yeah, to go
Spend
through
money.
it. I did. It took a while, because I'm still
But you must have such a good credit score.
I don't know, because I did other bad things. So because I didn't open my mail, I did other bad things.
Fair.
So.
But I think the point
I'm
about
avoiding
avoidance,
finding out what my credit score is. No,
the point about avoidance, though, is so powerful, because it's kind of, it's at the core of a lot of people's journey, or lack thereof, towards doing better in all the ways that we've just discussed.
You can't achieve this until you overcome avoidance. Yeah. It's impossible.
And I think once you taste
freedom,
the courage to come beyond avoidance,
absolutely,
it's hard to go back.
Absolutely.
And then once you touch that,
oh yeah, this feels good.
You've made it.
Feels good.
And that's a different conversation for every.
It is, and wealth is measured in so many ways.
Yeah.
The number is different for everyone. The person who can go get their tooth fixed has one level of wealth. The person who can buy whatever flashy car they want is another level. It's all different for every person.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no judgment about what wealth is,
Yeah.
But it is very subjective.
Yeah, and it's so, achieving it, whatever the level is so powerful for each individual throughout their lives, near the end, for their family members.
All the way through life. Yeah. All the way through life.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here today with me, with us, having this conversation.
It's a pleasure.
So extremely valuable, and I hope that everyone listening really does walk away and does one thing that they've been avoiding.
Absolutely.
And any of the advice that you've given.
And have one conversation that you've been avoiding.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I love that. We all have one, at least one.
It doesn't take, you don't have to go far to figure out which one it is, because By the way, we know intuitively all these things. Mm-hmm. It's just a question of crossing the line to achieving it, finding the agency within us to do it. Agency is the inner power that we all have, and learning how to harness it to do what we need to do to achieve our goals. Yeah,
I think agency is the power to make your own decisions.
Yeah. Do it for what you need it to do. Yeah.
To be in charge, yeah.
Totally. So important.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to You Belong in the Room, a podcast from PowerShip. If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to follow us to not miss the new episodes as they're released, and feel free to share it with anyone who you think would benefit. If you want to learn more about PowerShip or the Women's PowerShip Symposium, check out our website at powershipcollective.com, and be sure to follow us on Instagram at PowerShipCollective.